In this video, we'll learn how to display images in HTML. You can use JPEG, PNG, and GIF images in your site, and the way you do that is by linking to them, which means they can be on your server or on an external server. Use the image element with the attributes the src. In this case, I'm going to link to an image on the hard drive in the root of the web page called snow. And another attribute that you should always be using is the alt, which is just a text description. And finally, and this is getting to be somewhat optional, you can put in some attributes for width and height. And this is what's known as a void element, which in this case you shouldn't put a slash with the end. You just put the greater than symbol, and that will close it up. So let's save this and see what it looks like. There we go. Now let's say you have a remote image. I'm going to comment this out using the comment elements. And I'm going to create a new image. And put these in just blank for the time being. Let's find something on the web that we can make use of. Here's something here. I'm in Chrome. I'm going to right click and inspect it. And this image is at generalexcentric.net inside the image folder, and it's called breadboard2.jpg, and I can see it's 300 by 200 pixels. And the alt text is solarized image of electronic breadboard. So let's put in our src. Now it's going to be an http://generalexcentric.net, and then I'll put the subdirectory, the image subdirectory, and then breadboard2.jpg, and the alt is solarized image of electronics, and the width was 300 by 200. We'll save that and see how that looks. There we are. So this has grabbed a remote image, and you can use it in your own website. Now, just so that you are aware, some websites are configured so that they will not allow external uses of that image. The other aspect to images that you use from other websites is that you don't know whether this image is going to remain in the place where you have found it, or if it's going to be removed or moved to another place. If it's moved to another place, you'll get a broken image. So you should have a good idea if you link to remote images. you should have a fairly good idea that this is where it is and this is where it's going to stay. One final aspect to HTML5 is we are moving toward a situation where we are developing websites which are known as responsive. In other words, whereas in the past we would develop for different kinds of form factors, so you would develop for a desktop machine, then you would develop a separate website for an iPhone or an Android phone. With the introduction of the iPad and various reading devices of different sizes, that kind of approach to design has fallen out of favor for obvious reasons. The current approach is to think of web design as responsive. In other words, that you create one website that is aware of the size of the screen, and it is responsive to that size, and it gets smaller or bigger or makes changes in terms of format or selection of information depending on the form factor of the video screen. With Retina displays, the high definition Retina displays in the iPad 3 and the higher resolution on iPhones and different smartphones, there's the added complication of creating high definition images for these devices. In the past, everything was assumed to be 96 dpi. So if you had an image, it was always one size. With new devices, we have a variation of sizes, and there have been several proposed solutions to this. One of which is the src set attribute in HTML5, and that's a draft standard and it's not recommended for general use. There are other solutions to this problem that involve SVG files or JavaScript. One way you can get around this problem without using JavaScript or any other additional kinds of approaches is to deliver to the device a higher resolution image. The drawback to this is that it takes longer to download a higher resolution image, but at least you can be assured that it's going to work for all devices. So an example of this, let's go back to our original version. I'll comment this out here. And we'll bring this back. Now I have another image, another version of the snow.jpg, but it's called snow-hd, and it's actually 2700 pixels in width. But the width setting in HTML says, I don't care how big this image actually is, I'm going to present it with a width of 900. So in this case, it's going to deliver two images, one of which is the original low res or regular resolution image, and the other one is going to be a high definition image. So let's save this and take a look in Chrome. Now, because this screen is, I don't know, around 96 dpi, I'm not going to see a great deal of difference, but it does appear that the bottom image is a little bit sharper, and the reason for that is I have more pixels to adapt down to the lower resolution. So it is going to be a little bit sharper than this here. And of course, it's taken probably 4 times as long because this image is 4 times bigger than this image. That might be a problem with mobile phone users. It's not usually a big problem with people who are on cable modems or fiber. It might be a problem with Wi-Fi if the Wi-Fi is particularly heavily used. But this is one solution to the problem of different resolutions on web devices. We'll probably get a chance to look at this in more detail later on in the course.